Hello, I'm Mark Hughes. Welcome to Disability Viewpoints. My co-host today is Nick Wilkie from the Metropolitan Center for Independent Living, and we hope to have some news about them later on in the year, some good news that is. Welcome, Nick. Who's your guest today?
Good to be here, Mark. As always, my guest today is my colleague and friend, Pete McCauley. He is a co-director, co-producer of a local podcast program that's been running for about almost 2 years now, and they've got some great stuff going on. I can't wait to have them on and share a little bit more about their podcast.
Podcasts are an up-and-coming thing.
BOLDLY is what it's called.
Great, BOLDLY. Well, we'll learn more about that. And today on my side of the aisle, we'll learn more about UZURV. It's a new tax cab service whereby it helps the disabled. You can either have a regular sedan or a wheelchair van provided, and they provide rides at a discount. And I've had pretty good service. I'll tell you more about that in a few minutes, but stay tuned. More Disability Viewpoints on SPN is coming right up.
Welcome back to Disability Viewpoints. I'm your co-host this month, Nicholas Wilkie. It's a pleasure to be here again. A pleasure to be with all of our staff. With me today is my colleague and friend, Pete McCauley. Pete, will you just introduce yourself to our viewers, and then we'll move forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks so much, Nick, for having me on the program today, and thanks to everybody here at SPNN. My name is Pete McCauley, and I am a media producer, an independent media producer based here in the Twin Cities. I was, for a number of years, I was staff with a research center at the University of Minnesota called the Institute on Community Integration. And the Institute on Community Integration does a lot of research focused on supporting people with disabilities, whether it's in the realm of professional development for DSPs in the workforce that support people with disabilities, or policy-based things like working on policy like the ADA and informing that and policies both on a federal and state level. So I was with the Institute on Community Integration for about 5 years, but now I'm a totally independent media producer, and I'm what you might call a modern-day media producer in that I don't just find the money and pay people to make productions. I'm the person that also, does the scripting, sets up the lights and audio, runs the camera, does the editing, and all that stuff as well. So, wear many hats, and I enjoy putting on different hats depending on what the day may need. But yeah, been here in the Twin Cities for about 30 years, working in this realm. So happy to be here.
Awesome, great to have you. The number one reason I had you on this month was to tell our viewers a little bit more about a podcast and video production that got off the ground a little over 2 years ago called BOLDLY. Can you talk about those origins?
Yeah, absolutely. So the show is called BOLDLY Challenging Ableism, and it is both a podcast and a video series that we produced out of the Institute on Community Integration. But we started it in partnership with AM 950, which is a radio station based here in the Twin Cities, the progressive voice of Minnesota. AM 950 has a lot of different radio programs, and they've also, as a radio station, they've branched out to offer up, of course, podcasts and video series as well, all the same content. Because these days, you can create a podcast series that is also a video series to go either on, YouTube or on air or on cable like this. Mm-hmm. So AM 950 came up with the idea that they wanted to produce a series that focused on disability issues similar to this show that we're on here. And so they approached the Institute on Community Integration, and the director of marketing at ICI, his name is Jerry Smith, and you know Jerry, he came up with the idea that we would do a series focused on ableism and the experiences of people with disabilities in modern day society. And so so that was the impetus for the podcast. We're calling it a podcast, but it's an everything.
Yeah.
It's cast, right? It's an everything. It's an all cast, omnicast. That's what it is. So that's where the idea came from, and we have a staff member who is a research professional at Institute on Community Integration. Her name is Katrina Simons, and so she agreed to be our host, which is awesome because not only does she know a lot about the disability world, she also lives it, and she's a really great host and social person, and so she's an excellent person to be the host of the program.
Love Katrina. You mentioned this a little bit thus far, but who would you say have been like significant production partners? Is it just AM 950?
Right. So AM 950 is the main production partner with the Institute on Community Integration. And then in my role at ICI, because I was on staff there, so Jerry Smith, who's the Director of Marketing Communications, is really kind of the executive producer.
Okay.
And then I was the co-producer and director of the program. I co-produced along with Jerry Smith and also Katrina Simons. Katrina was doing a lot of the scheduling of the guests and contacting different people from around the country to be guests on the program. And then AM 950, of course, helped with a lot of the post-production, the editing and whatnot, and then they were the ones that got it both on air, on broadcast for radio, and then also they're the ones that got it into the podcast world of Apple Podcasts and Spotify, et cetera.
Cool.
So.
Cool. And I know this is a big list, but can you share what are some of the topics that you've tackled on the show?
Right. So, for example, one big topic is employment. So, for people with disabilities, there's a wide range of disabilities, and also there's a wide range of different employment opportunities and employment obstacles as well. So there were discussions around that. We had a guest on that was specifically talking about the waiver and things like that. Also, so we had some people on that, to tell their personal stories, like Joe Carr, who's an individual who with disability who has a lemonade stand that's become very famous, and he raises a lot of money for Gillette Children's Hospitals. So there's been a really wide range of topics.
What drew you to kind of be part of the disability community?
Right. Okay. So, like I said, I've been a media producer for many years. I was working at the University of Minnesota from 2006 to 2019, roughly, in the College of Education, and so I was a media professional in support of education and instruction. After a little while there, I decided I wanted something different, so I was looking around the university, and there was a position open at the Institute on Community Integration. And ICI has done a lot of media outreach work over the years. There's been a number of documentaries that have been produced out of there about the challenges of people with disabilities and history of disability. And also a lot of amazing training and support media for, like I said, either direct support professionals, agencies that employ those support professionals, or policymakers as well when it comes to dealing with policies around disability. So, so ICI has a long history of amazing work that it does. And so I consider myself somebody with a little bit of a social justice conscience, who wants to be able to contribute back to society. So being a media professional in the Institute on Community Integration was a really appealing position. So I took that position and I was there for 5 years. And really what it boils down to for me is that I think that supporting supporting people with disabilities and supporting the world of disability it's social justice work, and for me as somebody who wants to make the world a better place for everybody that's in it, or at least do my small bit to get there, it was appealing work for me, and so I'm really glad I was employed there, and I'm glad to still be a partner with ICI because now I'm a regular contractor with the Institute.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And as you know, viewers of this show are super passionate about a lot of that stuff that you just said too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's huge. This next question, Pete, kind of what speaks to you to keep you engaged
Okay, yeah.
in this stuff?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, this is social justice work, you know, and I personally had no experience with the world of disability before I became a staff member at the Institute. And so it was quite a learning curve when I first started there. And I've got a master's degree in learning technologies and, you know, electronic instruction, and I've done a lot of work around issues of race. And I realized pretty quickly as I started working at the Institute of Community Integration that ableism and the experiences of people with disabilities in this world is a lot like racism. So ableism and racism are on the same spectrum of isms, right? It's the ism schism, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to racism, people know what racism is, but they don't really know how deep it affects our society and how deep the tendrils of that experience have impacted the way that our society works right now. And so until you start doing a little bit of learning about the history of racism, I mean, the fact that it's a social construct, it's not even based in science at all, right? It's a total lie that was made up to justify slavery and imperialism. Doing that work takes some effort and some time. And it also takes some patience and understanding on the part of people who do understand all of the facets of that to be able to communicate it to the rest of the world. So I see ableism on the same spectrum, where, you know, people know for the most part that people with disabilities have struggles, right? But they just don't know how deep it goes. Most people don't understand about all these different things about, like, the waivers for employment. They don't understand really what a day-to-day experience is for somebody with disabilities to be able to get up, go to work, have a job in the community that means something to them. And so it's important for me, in my opinion, to be able to do the kind of work to get people to understand what the experience of people with disabilities have, and how their lives are impacted by ableism. So that's why I'm committed to this work, and that's why I continue to stay engaged.
That's awesome.
So,
where do you think Boldly will go next?
let's see. Well, like I said, we've got the first season that was wrapped up last spring, and that all aired on AM 950 and on all the internet places too. We've got the half of the second season has been recorded, and I think maybe a couple episodes have been out to air. But so we're going to do another season right now for sure. It'll be again AM 950. It airs on Sundays at 2 p.m. on AM 950, but then it can be caught online, you know, anytime thereafter. So we'll continue into the second season. Hopefully, we'll do a third, maybe even fourth. We'll see how many seasons we can do.
Okay.
But I also would like to get it into extra distribution. So right now it's available on AM 950's channels, but I'd like to get it out like here on SPNN. I'd like to get the program on SPNN channels, maybe on all of the different cable access networks in the Twin Cities and potentially beyond. So
that would be so cool. It's so much good content. Pete, do you have anything else that you want to share?
Well, I just hope that everybody gets a chance to tune in and check it out. I think it's a great program. It's a very important topic. Again, Katrina is such a great host because she's able to really bring this down to an everyday level that everybody can understand. So, because a lot of the research that's done in this area is, you know, pretty highbrow stuff that deals a lot with research jargon and whatnot. Right. But it's important for people like us to be able to take that you know, high concept work and distill it down so that people on a daily basis can use that information and communicate it. So so that's an important thing. Katrina's great at doing that. She's a great host. You know, maybe at some point we can start like doing things like hosting events and doing things like that in the community to just to kind of broaden the impact that it has.
That would be really sweet. Pete, I can't thank you enough for coming on. Disability Viewpoints will be back to you in just a few moments after these messages. Take care.
Hello, I'm Mark Hughes. Welcome back to Disability Viewpoints. Ron Brooks is our guest from UZURV. UZURV is a company whereby the disabled can ride in a car or a wheelchair-equipped van, and I do and have. And it just came to the Twin Cities not long ago, really. And so we want to introduce Ron. Ron, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And tell us a little about what you do at UZURV and its history and so on and so forth. Bring us up to date, please.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I've been with UZURV since 2021, and my role at UZURV is the director for policy and partnership. So I kind of wear two hats. One is to kind of help us pay attention to legal compliance things, policy issues in terms of transportation policy, because we are providing mostly paratransit services on behalf of public agencies. And then also on the partnership side, it's really working with our communities that we serve to make sure that we are doing a good job meeting the needs of our communities, that we're hearing from our writers and the folks that are in the community that we serve, and making sure that those voices are getting heard within the company so that we're doing a good job. UZURV as a company was founded in 2017 in Richmond, Virginia. So, and that's where we are headquartered to this day. I actually live in Arizona, but I support the company out of our Richmond office.
That makes you a smart man, by the way.
Lots of time on airplanes, but we were really created to provide a safe, high quality, dignified way for people with disabilities and older adults to get transportation. Mm-hmm. So we are a transportation network company, and I think that term, it's a little jargony, but it's also, you might hear the term rideshare. We're in the same space of business as companies like Uber and Lyft and others, and we can talk more about what that actually means. Yeah. But that's kind of where we sit. Today we are in about 45 markets across programs across 30 cities in 16 states in the District of Columbia, and we actually just opened up in the Twin Cities in September. So
right. Well, I fit both your bills. I'm old and I'm disabled, but so and it works. So anything more you want to tell us? How did you come to UZURV, and what made you decide to go there? And
well, that's a great story. So I am also a person with disabilities. I'm actually blind. I grew up as a kid with low vision, and I lost my eyesight at age 14.
Right.
So I've never driven a car. And as a person who has depended on other people for transportation, that got me interested in the public transit industry. So I joined the transit industry 30 years ago, or about 32 years ago, actually. Working in accessible transit and paratransit for my whole career. Mm-hmm. And I had an opportunity a few years ago to join UZURV, and I really liked the model because I believe that paratransit, that we're reaching a point with technology and with business models that we can deliver very high quality paratransit on demand. And that is something that UZURV is doing as a company. It appealed to me because it's great service. And so I wanted to be a part of the team to help bring that to the industry. So that's why I joined. I am a customer when I'm in cities where UZURV operates, and which gives me an extra perspective, both in terms of my job, but also of what we can do to make service better. So it's a really good fit.
Well, what I like about it is a little more freedom. There's no curfews, there are no service hour limits. You just call up and you put on your credit card and you get going. I'd like to tell you, though, about one experience that I had on the 19th of this month. I'm Osmond Schreiner. We're guys that wear the fezzes, you know, and have circuses most of the time. We're not this year. but we are a feeder for Shriners Children's hospitals across the country, and I'm a former patient. So it's near and dear to my heart. Well, we had a provost meeting, which is the military part or the safety part of the shrine, where we do patrols and stuff like that for parking and different guard stuff. So we had our monthly meeting out in Woodbury. So I went there after work, and we got done at 7:15, which is kind of unheard of, was early, 7:15 Minnesota time. So I called to see if I could pick up early, and usually you can't. But they said, well, we don't have a ride home listed for you tonight on the 19th. We have it for next week. I said, no, it's booked wrong. I booked it on the 19th. So then we went through that, and they weren't going to give me a ride. And then they do the recovery thing. Then the guy's supposed to be there 8:30, 9 o'clock, 9:30, 9:52, and 10 o'clock he gets there. I get to my apartment at 10:19. So I don't think that's supposed to happen. Then the next day they charge me, which, that's, I just need the ride. But I don't think all that was supposed to happen. And things do happen. The more rides you take, it's a volume thing. Same thing on Metro Mobility. The more rides you take, you're going to have trouble. And so I wanted to bring that up, though, because I don't know that the recovery thing can fit us. When we call, we need service. If we make the mistake, we own it, and they do a 5-minute no-show policy like Metro Mobility. But if we make the mistake, we own it. But this mistake was made somehow in the reservation. I need another vehicle. I'm ready to go. I got to go now. I can't be waiting that kind of time.
Yep. And those stories unfortunately do come up from time to time. And one of the things that, first off, I always tell riders that we need to hear those stories when they happen. Unfortunately, preferably not on TV, but we do need to hear them, because that's how we learn. And it's also how we identify issues, whether it be in our operating procedures or issues with how we execute on our work, so we can do better. It also helps us to understand where we may have technology issues, or where we may have just any kind of improvement. It comes honestly from learning from mistakes.
Right.
I am happy to say that our overall on-time performance is around 97%, and that's been pretty consistent for a long time, and that's across most of our markets. It generally speaking is a very good service. It's not a perfect service, and that 3%, that's really good for transit. But as I like to tell people, when you're in the 3%, that's 100% of your experience. So we have to work on that continuously.
Yeah,
And
well,
it is something.
it is, and I make mistakes too, but this one wasn't mine, and it's probably not polite to bring it up on television, but I want everybody to learn from it and not to have it happen.
Yeah.
Ron,
One of the other things I'll say, we'll talk about this later, but as we grow, it becomes easier for us to respond to those kinds of issues, because a lot of times as a smaller company, and we'll talk about the TNC model and how that works, but when you have more drivers, you're more resilient.
Right.
And the way that we get more drivers is to have more trips to offer drivers.
Absolutely.
So we can talk about that.
Absolutely. Nick had a question. Go ahead, Nick.
Ron, you just used an acronym, and I want to make sure we clear the air on what the acronym is. You said TNC. Can you break that down?
Yeah, happy to. And I think I said Transportation Network Company earlier, but
Right.
I'm
Okay,
trying
yeah,
to remember
Yep,
that.
gotcha.
So
Okay.
Transportation Network Company. So again, that you may also hear the term ride share
Right.
or ride hailing. Those all mean the same thing.
Okay,
Right.
gotcha. Gotcha. Thank you so much.
All right. Is there anything else you want to bring up that we don't know about, or what's coming up at UZURV that we should know?
So I think a couple of things I do want to bring up, and we can dive into anything you want with whatever time you want to share. I just want to talk a little bit about our drivers and what we expect from them. First off, one of the things that makes us a little bit different is that our drivers our company is adapted to meet the needs specifically of folks with disabilities and older adults. So whereas a traditional rideshare company, it's a curb-to-curb service, you book it on an app. when your vehicle shows up, you go out and you meet it and you go. Our service model is that, but it's adapted. So, for example, we offer both a call center and a mobile app, so you can use either.
Well,
We
I'm
are.
not good at the mobile app, so I call you. Is that okay?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. That's why we have a call center.
Yeah.
So there's that. We also, our base level of service is door to door. So drivers are expected to get out of the vehicle, even when it's cold,
Yeah.
and come meet the passenger, which I'm hoping that they do. Drivers are expected to provide assistance to and from the vehicle that the passenger requests and needs. Our drivers receive enhanced education around the rights of people with disabilities to travel with service animals. And our policy is zero tolerance on service animal denials, and that has been an issue
Right.
with other services in the past.
Hey, some people
course
don't
we-
like cats and dogs. I happen to,
Well,
but some people don't.
Yeah, service animals, I mean, they do have to be service animals, but yes. And then the last thing I'll say is that we do offer wheelchair accessibility as part of the service model. And one more thing, drivers are credentialed to meet transit requirements. So, for example, background checks, substance abuse testing is part of our business model, because those are requirements for transit agencies and those are our clients, and so we meet those same requirements.
Okay. Hey, we got a couple minutes left, so I'll do the final
Yep.
word segment quick. And the final word segment on our show is anything that I might have missed, anything you want to say, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, I want to just a lesson learned. So we've learned, I've learned, and I've spent a little bit of time in the Twin Cities, that Metro Mobility riders are quite well informed about their service, about their options, about how things work and how they should work. They ask very good questions that we've fielded in public meetings.
Right.
The other thing we learned is that price is a big deal.
Right.
And when we started, we have adjusted pricing downward twice
Thank you,
since we've been in the Twin
Ron, on
Cities.
behalf of us in the Twin Cities, thank you.
Yep, and so now you can go a little bit farther on the $5 subsidy that is on the $20 subsidy. So hopefully that is helpful, and we're going to keep learning as we go, and hopefully grow this program even bigger.
Right, and let me tell you one thing about the disabled community, though. When there is a problem in Metro Mobility, a lot are afraid to speak up because they're afraid they'll lose their service privileges. But guys like Nick, and probably I think I'm speaking up for Nick too, we've been down in the House and Senate trying to make the thing a better thing, but there hasn't been any competition for Metro Mobility, so they've run their own gambit. And that's why UZURV is a big deal. It gave more competition to Metro Mobility. Now we might get them to pay attention, And the bigger UZURV is, the better it gets for us, and it might train Metro Mobility a little better.
Well, and the other thing that I was going to say too is that it's just important to be able to have options, right?
That's exactly right. It is 2026, so we want options.
Yep.
Anything else? Because we got to go, but anything else?
Well, I just want to thank you for creating the opportunity to share, and I want to invite people to come check us out online at uzurv.com/ride.
Do that again, in case
That's
they haven't.
UZURV, UZ like zebra, so UZURV like Victor.com/ride, RIDE. That's our rider page. You can find out anything you want to know right there.
Very good. And we're in our 28th year, so this was created long ago, and so we enjoy doing it. And anytime you want to get back on, just contact us, and we'll get you back on.
Sounds great.
All right?
Pleasure being with you, Ron.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Ron.
you. It's nice to meet both of you.
Ron Brooks
All right.
from UZURV has been our guest on Metro Mobility. I'm Mark Hughes. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Disability Viewpoints. Bye for now.